Hello and welcome to the Biz Sister Show. I am your Biz Sister, Wendy Babcock. And this month we're talking about mindset. And mindset can be in all different categories: health, wellness, business, entrepreneurship. And so I'm going to welcome all my three guests this week, and we're just going to see where the conversation takes us. So first up, please welcome Michelle Teague,
Hi,
and then
everyone.
and then please welcome Suzanne Moore.
How you doing?
Yep. And please welcome Kelly White.
Hi, everyone.
All right. So I'm just in the same order. I'm going to have you introduce yourselves and talk a bit about what you do and who you are. So if you want to go first, Michelle.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle Teague. I am a speaker, trainer, and coach. My company is a Teague of your own. We help you lead to succeed, communicate to elevate, and build teams to fulfill dreams. I'm outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I am so thankful to be here this evening.
Awesome. And I love all the play on words. That's like
Thanks.
I love that. If it rhymes, it makes me happy. All right. Suzanne, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Awesome, thank you. I am Suzanne Moore, and I work with independent entrepreneurial women to help them build their business and help them figure out what the 2 to 3 things are they really need to focus on. And I have a growing concentration on working with published nonfiction authors because a lot of people think that once they publish the book, everything's just going to click, click, click. And what they actually have to do is keep marketing that book. And I know this because I'm the author of Hang On Tight, Learn to Love the Roller Coaster of Entrepreneurship. So that's
I
me.
love it. Sweet. I love the whole concept too. I love that. And I'm an author too, so I know exactly what you mean. Just kind of like you have this big launch and then you let it fall to the wayside.
Right.
Happens to a lot of us. I'm Kelly. Please introduce yourself and a little bit about what you do.
Hi, my name is Kelly White, and I am co-owner of Connecting Hearts Travel. I'm in business with my daughter, which is pretty much what we are all about. We help mothers and daughters and their growing daughters, teens and above, stay connected in deep and meaningful ways, one travel experience at a time. Get out of your normal roles and out into the world to experience and grow together, and your relationship just naturally progresses and stays close.
I love that. And when we connected, I shared too when I went to Polka Dot Celebration this year and I brought my daughter. And that was such a cool thing to have my daughter along with. So what you're doing, like pairing mothers and daughters to travel more, it's such a cool experience. And talk about bringing people close together.
Absolutely, yes.
Love it. So we're just going to jump in and talk about some mindset stuff. So I'll start with Michelle. So as for what you do, where does mindset really fall into with what you do in your business? Where does that kind of help you build and grow?
Well, it comes in a lot with the coaching aspect of my business. And one of the first things that I like to focus on with my clients is making sure they're in a positive mindset, making sure they're in an abundance mindset. Uh, the beauty of mindset is you can change it at any point in time. It's not like once you have your mind set on a particular area that it's there and written in stone and can't be changed ever. You can change how you think. You can change the actual thoughts that you have. And the more positive you think, the more positive things that will happen to you. The more uh, that you think about the world being an abundant place where there are plenty of customers out there are plenty of friends and significant people in your life, and there's just a whole world full of good people and good things out there. The faster you get to that mindset, the better your life is going to become. And that's one of the things that I work with my customers on.
Awesome. And I see that even flowing over to what Suzanne, what you do with working with authors, mindset, that same thing, staying positive and not being like, oh, this book's going to bomb. It's going to suck. No one's going to buy this book. Do you get a lot of that?
Well, I think the thing that authors tend to think, and I know this from my own experience of writing my book last year, is the who the heck is going to read this, and who am I to write this book? Who am I to think that that somebody's going to actually sit down and take all the time that it's going to take them to read what I've written, and why will they think it's important? And the reality is that we all have messages, we all have stories, we all have lessons that we've learned, and none of us knows everything, right?
Yeah.
And we all have our strengths and our weaknesses, but if you're in there and you're writing a book, you probably know what you're writing about well enough that other people are going to get value from it. And as Michelle said, training your mind to stay positive on that and training your mind to believe in that, I think is so important. And, one of the things that I find interesting is that we're naturally wired to have negative thought, right?
Mm,
And
yeah.
I think until you realize that, it's so easy to kind of think, oh, well, this is my truth, right? But once you realize that that's actually a protective mechanism for us,
Mhm.
and it's not truth, it's our ego protecting us, um, then you can say, oh, well, so if the first thing I think is a negative thought about that, that doesn't I don't have to take that as truth. I can shift it and say, how can I turn that exact thought around on its head and believe differently?
Yeah, I tend for myself like to look for evidence of the negative thought or the positive. Like, okay, where's the actual evidence that I am a terrible person? Or where's the actual evidence that no one's going to buy this or read this book that I've written? Or, and usually you're not going to find the evidence for the negative. You can create stuff in your
Right.
mind when you actually look for the tangible things like, okay, well, when I've talked to friends, they're all like, they're cheering me on. And, when you look for those things, you're like, oh, yeah, people are kind of excited about this thing that I'm doing. So,
Absolutely.
so Kelly, for you, yours, what you do is a little bit different. So mindset for you, I would think it's got to be interesting with that mother daughter dynamic. And so, mindset, 'cause you're talking about two different generations. So where does mindset fall in to what you do?
Oh, everywhere. Honestly, mindset is huge. I'm trying to bring mothers and daughters together, and I have that dynamic. I am a daughter, right? And I have two daughters, and my relationship with both of them is very, very different. And just like anything else, when you're talking about relationships and you hear somebody say something, you perceive it in a certain way, and you have to train yourself to not perceive it from your experiences, but try to perceive it from what they're actually saying and from their experiences. And so it's really huge, especially when you're talking about dealing with teenagers and college children and then adults that are trying to build their own lives. They're not always going to choose the values and the choices that you want for them. They're trying to find their own way. They're not going to spend as much time with you as you want to. And so
Mhm.
mindset on both sides of that is humongous, really, to be able to just see each other as people and take a step back and breathe and listen, because it's such high emotions when you're talking about mother and daughter. So mindset is really huge in what we do.
And in the travel aspect of that too, I would think, I mean, when I look at my relationship with my mom before she passed, is like she never really traveled through her life. I mean, she really didn't do any traveling. She went with my dad and my aunt and uncle a few times, but
Mhm.
it was such an interesting thing. The one trip I did take with my mom and dad, I mean, there's some memories there that are just phenomenal. So I think that can help bring people closer. And sometimes, however, if there's a troubled relationship, sometimes I wonder if it's going to be like people button heads. you
Yeah, I
know.
mean, it definitely can be. We work with clients. I'm actually working with clients right now where they are trying to travel to build their relationship, repair their relationship. And
Mhm.
so, we've talked to them about listen to each other. If things start to get heated, I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's a safe word. Like, give yourself a word that's like, okay, we're just going to shift gears and try to enjoy each other, and also remove yourself from those roles, right? You're
Mhm.
not mother daughter. You're travel companions when you're going away and trying to do this. So yeah, there's a lot that plays into it.
Well, I think what all of you have kind of mentioned a little bit about with, being more positive and changing perspective, your perception of things, to me that's a big part of mindset is being able to have the flexibility to see things from somebody else's perspective. Whether it's business, personal, or however you want to look at it, that mindset. So, if you could give somebody advice on how to challenge their mindset. How to, like, people who are really, really negative all the time. Do you have any tips or tricks that you would share with them to try and, like, kind of snap out of it, or techniques that you use to, push past that imposter syndrome, or kind of to get out of your own way?
One of the things that I talk with my customers and clients with is start each day and end each day thinking about 3 positive things that have happened to you, and to start cultivating that mindset of gratitude, of what you are grateful for, what are you happy to have in your life. And the more you think about something, the more you get that exact same thing. So when you think about more positive and more gratuity, that's what you end up getting more of. So if you start first thing in the morning and before you go to bed at night, if that's what you're focusing on, it can help throughout the course of your day to bring more of that into your life.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I love that, Michelle. So I have two avenues. The first is, the concept that you make as much money as the people that, like, the 5 people you're closest to.
Right.
I think you also have, I think it's a lot of that has to do with mindset. And I think you also have a very similar mindset to the people you are closest to. And so, um, you need to find some positive mindset friends that's number one, right? And surround yourself with all positive mindset people as much as you can.
Yeah.
Um, and the other thing I was going to say is, whenever I start to have that imposter syndrome feeling, one of the best things I can do is sit myself down and read the testimonials that people have written for me.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Um, I just, when it's so easy to forget the good work that you do. It's so easy to forget, the positive impact that you've had on someone. But when you take the few minutes to read what people have said about the work that they've done with you, man, that can really put you in a positive mindset, because you know what? They don't give you testimonials when they're not
Yeah,
good.
that's true.
This is
And
true.
and you get the unique experience of seeing yourself through somebody else's eyes. I think
Yes,
you're like, wow, you just don't realize how much you impact people sometimes.
right,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. I think for me, in what I do, I'm dealing with relationships and communication a lot. And so the advice that I tend to lean on, for myself, I use where's the evidence to
Mhm.
support that when I'm giving myself some negative talk, like, okay, where are you making this up in your mind? Where is the evidence to support that? I use that one all the time. And then as far as communicating and the mindset of the communicating, listen. Don't listen, this it's said all the time. Don't listen so that you can respond, listen so that you can hear. And if something offends you, if something strikes you in a way that kind of bristles your feathers, well, take a deep breath and ask, I heard this way. This is what I heard. Is that what you intended? And,
Yeah.
and then let them actually explain, because 9 times out of 10, what they intended is not what you heard. And so that's really a mindset shift, to don't just jump to 0 to 10 and get heated. What did
Mhm.
they really, what did you hear what they intended to say?
Well, and
I
Kelly,
agree.
to
Go ahead.
add to that, don't go around looking to be offended.
Exactly.
That's the other thing is I think
Exactly.
some
Yeah.
people really do. Some
Yeah.
people literally they wake up in the morning and think, "Oh, what bad thing is going to happen to me, and what bad things are people going to say about me, and
Mhm.
how are people going to make my day awful?" And instead of having that positive outlook,
Yep.
don't go around looking for the bad. Go around looking for the good.
And that's a challenge I
Absolutely.
give people a lot, is to look for the good every single day. And usually it came from a book I read. I believe it was either E Squared or E Cubed, by Pam Grout. She talks about, no matter how you want to put it, being grateful or saying a blessing, whatever, for every little thing. Take one day and literally say to yourself or out loud, I am thankful for, your coffee cup. It keeps my coffee warmer. I'm thankful for the coffee that's in even the smallest tiny things. and it just basically snowballs into so many bigger. I've changed my entire days by doing that. Like, okay, I'm getting frustrated. I call it, I get the dropsies. I'll be doing my makeup or something. I'll drop this, I'll drop that. And then I get frustrated, right? And
Mhm.
you do it once, it just snowballs.
Mhm.
So I have to stop. I take a deep breath. I'm like, okay, I'm thankful I have these tools to make myself look better than what I did when I woke up. And I'm thankful that and it can really turn my day around by just that simple thing. So I have found help with that. And
I
Absolutely.
love that, and I love the fact that I'm not the only person that drops things all over the place and makes a mess. Really.
yeah, I feel like such a klutz with my husband all the time, especially if I'm nervous. If I'm nervous, it's like a nervous tick then. I'm gonna bump into something, I'm gonna knock something over, I'm going to yeah, and when I help my husband cater, that's usually when it comes out because I get nervous, and that's when I'm gonna trip over a cord or do something silly. Yeah. And what you're saying, Kelly, about communication, and so my main topic when I speak is a complaint-free world. And so I teach people how not to complain and how to help people around them not complain. And it's about shifting the conversation and having those difficult conversations. So that to me is the hardest thing is to say the thing you need to say to clarify the situation right then and there. And that's what most people that I've met have struggled with. We're like, well, they'll walk away thinking, well, that person totally meant to offend me. They meant to say that. It's like, well, did you ask? Did you ask them if that's what they meant?
Right. And when you're
No.
dealing with mothers and daughters, you're talking about a whole history of,
Mhm.
right, just very easily can jump to the next level,
Yeah.
even if that's not how it was intended. And being able to have that space that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
outside of your normal routines and have
Right.
those kind of conversations, it helps.
Yeah. And for me, especially, I tend to question myself. If I feel like offended about something that someone has said to me, like, okay, wait a minute. Why am I feeling kind of like outraged right now? Recently, I had somebody in a message like start out a sentence with all due respect to me. And I was like, oh, really going to start, I'm like, okay, but why does that bother me? So I had to ask myself, was this person meaning to be like condescending? And that's the way I took it. I'm like, probably not.
Probably
But
not.
for me, because of, people that I've dealt with in my past, I felt like it was condescending or whatever. So that's on me. So also just kind of asking yourself, like, why am I upset about this small thing that happened?
That's
I think that
actually
makes
something that we talk to mothers and daughters about, trigger words.
yeah,
What are your trigger words? Think about that before you go. You're going to be having conversations. What is something that normally gets said that triggers a reaction, right, wrong, or indifferent?
right.
Put them out there before you leave for the trip. Know what those trigger words are so that you're thoughtfully thinking about trying to avoid those situations.
Yeah, I agree. And so, for Michelle and Suzanne, then, like in business, when we're talking about that type of communication with mindset, what kinds of things have you come across where, when you're coaching people, sometimes we can clash a little bit. Have you had that happen, and like how have you worked your way through those situations?
One of the tools that I use with my clients is DISC. I'm a certified DISC consultant, and I have give them a DISC assessment so I can find out what their preferences are for their communication and leadership styles. And it's eye-opening for them, and it's also eye-opening for people to find out that not everybody's going to communicate like you, and not everybody wants to communicate like you.
Mhm.
And so you need to approach people from their preferred style of communication.
Yeah.
And if you are one of those business people who is constantly in a hurry, likes to send, 3 or 4 word texts, and um, is very quick to make decisions, but the people on your team, or worse, your customers, are not. They take a long time to make decisions. They have to think things over. They need to get a lot of input. They need more information. They there could be a lot more going on there. It can be very frustrating for
Mhm.
people trying to communicate with others. And so one of the things I do is work with them to see how these people in their lives who they think are causing all kinds of conflict for them, the reality is no, they're not causing conflict for you. They just communicate differently than you do.
Yeah.
And when you take the time to just take a look at how they would like to communicate and what they would prefer, you can overcome a lot of the conflict that's going on by doing that. And I'm sure Kelly finds that with her mother-daughter
Mhm.
combinations. You have these people who literally they've grown up together. They've spent,
Mhm.
years and years together, but they still butt heads when they're communicating. And it's because they didn't take the time to figure out, how do you really want to communicate with me?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. So I have not had very many conflicts with clients that I can think of. Certainly in the coaching that I've done, but before I was a coach, I ran a virtual assistant team, and there were
Oh, wow.
definitely conflicts there because often, small mistakes can be
Right.
can feel small to one party and not to the other, right?
Mhm.
Um, but I think what I tend to see is my clients will come to me and they'll say, this happened and I have no idea how to deal with it. And it's usually the way someone emailed them about something,
Wow.
or what I, I think one of the biggest things about conflicts, not conflicts, is having boundaries,
Mhm.
right? And being comfortable with your boundaries. And I
Yeah.
definitely think that's a mindset issue, right? Because particularly as women, we give and give and give.
Yep.
And then when it's time for us to say no, and when we absolutely are in the right to say no, it's a very difficult thing to do because we're not used to it. Um, and so I think I've had many clients that have found themselves in situations where they feel that they're being taken advantage of by a client, or
Wow.
things like that. And I've had to help them unravel where the issue stems from, and how to deal with it with the client in a or in with their customer or their client in a way that is professional, um, but does hold up for their boundaries, and to create those boundaries, and to accept that they're okay to have. So
Yeah.
that's, yeah, what I've experienced a lot with my clients.
Yeah, and being okay with saying no or turning somebody down politely, like, that's okay. I struggled with that myself I mean, I've spent money on stuff that I'm like, "Why did I say yes to that? That didn't align with what I'm doing at all." But it's because I was afraid to say no, whether it's a friend or somebody I know, and now it's like, no, I can say, "Thank you so much for thinking of me." Like, that sounds like a great opportunity or a great thing that you've got going on, but just not at a place right now where that's gonna work out for me. So, but I usually try and start with a thank you, and then I can go into why that's just not a good fit.
Well, and Wendy, one of the words that you use there is not in alignment. Uh, if more people had a better understanding of what their values are,
Yeah.
what their purpose is, what their goals are, you can literally ask yourself, is this in alignment with my
Mhm.
values? Is this in alignment with my purpose? Does this align with my vision for the future and with my goals to get there? Because if it
Yeah.
doesn't, then why am I saying yes to it?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
And I know myself. I've learned to know myself very well. I can get very excited about other people's things and like I want to be part of it and I want to like do this course or take that or do this because I see their value, but it's like, wait, but this doesn't go along with or doesn't align with what I'm currently doing. So why am I spending the time and the money to do this thing, even though it's phenomenal? And so I've kind of caught myself and now I have to take a step back instead of like jumping into something and overextending my time, my schedule for something that's maybe not going to benefit me, as much as it could somebody else because it's not aligning.
It's totally full circle with the mindset, right? When you think about that,
Yeah.
you come to a place with your mindset where your goals and your dreams are valid and worth it, and the boundaries that surround that are
Yeah.
necessary.
Mhm.
But you have to be working on positive mindset and the mental fortitude to believe that in order to be able to say those things. So, again, it just shows mindset being so key.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. And for Suzanne, then, as far as like being an author and stuff, I think I struggled a lot with not just imposter syndrome as far as putting the book out there, but calling myself an author. I don't know why that was. People are like, "Oh, you're an author." I'm like, "No, I'm not really. I'm not like an author. I'm really not an author like a traditional sense." I don't know why I said that. I just kept pushing. They're like, "You wrote a book." I'm like, and I just kept like, "No, no." It took me a long time to say I'm an author.
You know what? I appreciate that. But if you've written a book, you are.
Right.
Um, and I had people saying, "Well, you're an author," before the book came out, and I'm like, "Well," but I have to say, the day the book came out, I was like, "Ooh,
You
I
embrace it.
really am an author."
Right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and I don't know why I felt like that imposter syndrome because 'cause I'm like, "But I'm not like a trained writer. I'm not." And I had all these "I'm not" statements that came along with it, and people were like, "Wait, what?" And people would question me like, "Why are you saying that to me right now?
Mhm.
Like, you wrote a book, I have it, I read it, I liked it, but now you're telling me it's not," and so they turned it around like, "Well, you're invalidating then what I just purchased. You're telling me
Mhm.
that I shouldn't be reading your book or buying from you because you're not really an author. This is not gonna be good." I'm like, "Oh, oh, you're right. I need to embrace this." Yeah.
I like what they had to say to you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, those are
And
people
absolutely.
I'm
who would
glad you
yeah.
have and I'm glad you have people around you that respond to you in that manner.
Yeah, and that's important too, like we were talking about earlier, I forget who said it, but having those people surrounding you
No.
that can call you on your BS and that aren't afraid to tippy toe or that don't wanna tippy toe. They're like, nope, not taking that."
Yeah, yeah,
That's very important.
absolutely. Yeah. I have to say, I just love, Kelly, that I love the idea that you help people go away together, because I do think that when you get out of your own space,
Mm,
Mhm.
that you're more open to communication, relationship. I think it's such a healthy thing to do, and especially if we didn't know that before, I think we really know it now, that getting
Now,
out of your
right?
own space is really good for you,
yeah.
It is.
right?
And yeah,
Yeah.
spontaneous conversations happen too when you're out and you're experiencing the world. Things that would be awkward to just start talking about at home,
Mhm.
for homelessness or, you know, anything really that you
Yeah.
encounter as you're traveling just sparks a conversation that you wouldn't have when you're home in your normal day to day and in your normal roles.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I think it's so fantastic.
Well, and I think when you're traveling with people, you kind of like you said, you're a lot more open to things. You kind of drop those walls around you a bit because you are experiencing something new and you're experiencing it together, you
And
know?
and
And
travel is it you grow. I mean, there's no way when you're experiencing something new together, you're growing, or if you're sharing a piece of yourself that interests you with somebody else, it opens, you're a little bit vulnerable. I'm sharing
Yeah.
this part with me that excites me, and you're sharing. And so yeah, so many things happen when you travel together.
it's a
Yeah.
true bonding experience where you, like you said, you grow together. But the other thing is, it's just the two of you making that particular memory together.
Mm.
It's not, you and the entire family. It's just the two of you, and it helps you to build up your relationship even more.
Right. And I feel like that you leave a lot of those like trigger things that can happen in your everyday life like behind. So you kind of plucked out of your own little safety
Mhm.
net so that you can experience things in a different way without all those little things that could bubble up around you that can set you off,
Absolutely.
you know. So we've got about 15 minutes left and I'd like to just kind of touch base with each of you is how has your own mindset evolved with since you became an entrepreneur to now? Like how has your mindset evolved?
That's a great question. Uh, when I studied in business school and I studied economics. And so when you're studying economics, one of the things that you learn is more is better and size matters. And the more customers you have, the more money you can make, the bigger your company can grow. When you're starting out, though, it's very small. You start off with that first customer, and then your second customer, and then you get the momentum going. It can be a long time, though, for that to happen. And I think for me, the key was being persistent and also having the mindset that A, I can do this,
Hmm.
and B, I will be successful in all of this. When I start every day, in addition to talking about what I'm grateful for, there are 3 affirmations that I create for myself every day, and they can be different any day of the week. But they start with I am, I can, and I will.
Wow.
And I fill in the blanks after those every single day. And it's a matter of getting myself in that right mindset to continue to think my business is going to be prosperous. I am going to be successful. I can do this. And making sure that you continue that mindset every single day, and uh, being persistent, being consistent, and persevering through no matter what comes at you. And the past almost 2 years have been incredibly different than what they were 2 years prior to that.
Yeah.
And as a result, you have to have the right mindset in place to be successful and to continue going forward.
Yeah. 100% agree. All of it. That makes such a difference. And the persistence and consistency is where I've struggled for
Mhm.
some years. I'd be great for a few weeks and then I get into a slouch. And I'd be good for a few weeks, and learning and being more consistent with yourself, it does make a huge impact on your business.
Absolutely. Yeah. I I when I think of where my mindset was when I started out as an entrepreneur, I can't even believe I'm the same person. And the whole concept that you have to grow in order to be able to grow your business, I mean, that is 100% me.
Mhm.
Um, I remember being absolutely scared to death to invest a couple $100 in something,
Yeah.
and just feeling like, well, I couldn't possibly. I think I've had to work on my worthiness a lot,
Mhm.
Yeah.
my belief in my own worthiness. Now's not the time, honey. Um, and sorry, my son was just
You're
gonna
fine.
introduce the dog. Um,
Aw. We wanna meet the dog. It's okay.
well, um, but I've had to work a lot on my own worthiness, and I I I mean, I had no concept that of the importance of belief in myself and my own
Mhm.
abilities. And I really, really used to struggle with that. And it's not like I never do now, but
Right.
I've learned what I need around me in order to make sure that I don't go completely off the rails.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah,
big
and
shifts.
I think that worthiness thing, you don't realize it until you fully realize it. I don't know how
Mhm.
else to say that, but I held an event in 2018, and one of the speakers had us write down all of our I am statements, and then we had to say them out loud. And one I wrote down was I am worthy. And when I got to that one and I said it, I just started bawling. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, what's coming up for me right now? Because
Yeah.
it didn't feel true. I was saying the words, but it really made me realize that I was saying it, but I didn't believe it.
Mhm.
So that's huge for entrepreneurs. So yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a worthy is almost a trigger word,
Mhm.
right? It can
Yeah,
be.
pretty much. Yeah.
And I'm the same, Suzanne. I am a totally like if I look at who I was in 2017 as to who I am right now, I don't recognize that girl. Like I don't recognize her,
Yeah.
thankfully, to be honest. I was, yeah, it's the worthiness, all of it. I have had to change so much and grow so much in order to be able to do this. I used to think, who am I to, help mothers and daughters? I mean, I don't always get along with my children. My relationship is totally different with both of my girls and my mother. Like all three of those dynamics are so different. And who am I to try to tell people what they should be doing and how to communicate? And then I sit back and say, well, geez, I'm the mother of two grown girls and a daughter and 50, 2 years old, and I've got a lot of experience, and I have great relationships, different, but great relationships that are always changing. And so that whole imposter syndrome and worthiness, it was a huge journey, even to the point of where I saying no to people. You talked about not wanting to invest in your business because you were afraid, or
Hmm.
starting off small. At the beginning, I would take any trip or any business, even if it wasn't my ideal client, like, oh, I have to take it. And then I wasn't serving with a happy heart because it wasn't aligned with my business. And it took a long time to get to the point of where it's like, okay, bless and release almost,
Yeah.
or refer you to somebody else, but to be able to just say that's not, yes, it's money coming into my business, but it's not in alignment with what I want to do. And that 2017, that girl never would be able to do that.
Yeah. I That's brilliant, all of it. And I think
Mhm.
about that too. Like Michelle was talking about how we thought with business you have to have more and more and more, more customers,
Mhm.
more money, more of everything. But if they're not aligned with you and what you do, you're going to be more frustrated. And I found that out the hard way too. I started my entrepreneurship in 2010 with like a side gig with doing an MLM. And I had to get everybody on board. Everybody was my client. Everybody was my customer. And then you get the wrong people signed up
Mhm.
on your team, and you're like, "Oh my god, this person is driving me crazy," because they weren't a good fit. You just wanted them because you're taught more is more is more. You just have to have more. And so it is an evolution then with your mindset of, "Okay, all right, I need to figure out who is my person, who are the people who I want," and it's okay to start slow and to build slow. And I've learned that, and none of us are perfect. So we're going to slide back into those old mindsets. We're going to feel unworthy. We're going to feel imposter syndrome and all of that stuff. And sometimes we feel like if more people would just sign up, and you get that frustration going, those old habits. But, when you evolve yourself, you can kind of take a step back. Maybe you let yourself have a day of a pity party, which is what I tend to do. Is like, if I'm going into that mindset, I'm like, okay, something's bubbling up for me. I need to just take a day, feel all the feels, and then the next day I can get back to it. Then I was like, okay, I need to cut it off. I don't want to be in a slump for a month. I'll let myself feel all that stuff that's coming up. And then I'm like, okay, now I need to work on this. I start with gratefulness. That's usually the first thing. Go to bed at night and I go through my head of all the things I'm grateful for. And I love what Michelle said too with the I am, I can, and I will. I
Mhm.
think I'm going to implement that because I think that's a really great strategy, to keep yourself on track. But yeah, that evolution, I think it happens over time and we just learn what we need to learn when we need to learn it.
Well,
I'm amazed how many times the word alignment has come up
yeah,
in this
yeah.
Yeah.
conversation, right?
Mhm.
Alignment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, it's and it's so not what people generally think about, right?
Right.
But it
Absolutely.
is so
Yeah.
central
Mhm.
to doing well and having success, and really isn't success just doing things that are in alignment, right?
Yeah.
Well, and
Absolutely.
to one of the things that also came up is saying yes to the right things.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's the biggest change you notice as you're an entrepreneur is, as Kelly said in the beginning, you say yes to everything. It's that first time that you say no, that's when you realize you've made the switch
Yeah.
and you realized you've got that abundance mindset because even if I turn this person down, there's still going to be plenty of customers out there for me. My ideal customer is out there, and this is who that person is. And the more you put that out there, the more those customers will come to you. So for the entrepreneurs who are out there, it's okay to say no. Just like Suzanne was talking about earlier, it's okay to set boundaries.
Yeah.
And you have to do that with your business too.
Yeah.
I think one other thing too, it's funny what you were just talking about, Wendy, when you were talking about allowing yourself to feel the feels like, oh, I'm going to have I'm not, something's coming up, I'm just going to take the day. I think realizing that whole toxic positivity, right? There are feelings out there. We all have things that come up and we have to feel them, right? You got to step back and actually feel those feelings in order to be able to move on with your mindset. So I think allowing is also super key.
Yeah.
If that's the
And
right way to even say that.
yeah, what you allow it and what you're willing to invest in feeling worthy. That's the allowing part too, is feeling worthy of, yeah, I'm going to invest, $2,000 in this course that I know I need, and it aligns with what I'm moving towards. The coach is somebody I've talked to personally, and so that's a key thing for me too, and what I allow and what aligns with what I do is whoever is teaching the course that I'm going to invest in, because I learned the hard way. The first course I ever invested in, it was a good course, but I was not the person teaching it was not the person that I could learn best from. And that's where like DISC comes in and those type of tools come in great, where I felt like I just like blew a ton of money and I had such buyer's remorse on that. Even though I learned some things from the course, that was just the wrong teacher for me. There was nothing wrong with the course or the teacher, but that was just not the right fit for me. And so learning how to figure out what things do fit into your life and align with you to say yes to, it's made such a big difference for me.
Yeah.
So in the last 3 minutes that we've got here, ladies, I'd like you to talk about how people can find you. If they want to continue the conversation with you and learn more about what you do, how can people find you? So Michelle, if you want to go first.
Sure. I have a couple different platforms on social media that you can find me on. On Facebook, you can find me there on either a Teague of your own. I have a page there, or my personal page. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's the same thing, a Teague of your own, or my personal page. And then you could go to my website, ateagueofyourown.com, and reach out to me there, find out more about me and what I can do for you.
Awesome. Thanks.
Sure.
Suzanne?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram are where you'll usually see me hanging out. And I'm either Suzanne T. Moore or Suzanne Tregenza Moore on those platforms, because Suzanne Moore is pretty vanilla. So you got to have at least a middle initial. You can also find me at my website, SuzanneTMoore.com.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Kelly?
You can also find me on Facebook. Usually I work out of my personal page just because it's where I find myself most often, but I do have a business page as well. Also on LinkedIn, and my website is connectingheartstravel.com. And my link is right there to set up an appointment or a Calendly if you would like to chat more. All of those places.
Awesome. Well, thanks to all three of you for joining me tonight. It's been wonderful. I loved all the tips and strategies and things that you guys talked about with mindset and how it applied to your business. So thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having us.
Wendy.
It was
Yeah.
lovely.
And everyone who's watching, make sure you go out to like the YouTube channel and subscribe. We're streaming on LinkedIn and in a couple of different places on Facebook. So please feel free to share to your friends and your loved ones and the entrepreneurs that might need a little mindset shift in their lives. Even if maybe you didn't connect with one of us here, somebody likely will. And that's usually how it works. Oh, I got your name from so-and-so, and then it's like the perfect fit for them. So if you know somebody, if you're watching this, who could use some bit of a mindset shift or some traveling, or they're writing a book, or they need some coaching, please reach out to one of these lovely ladies and connect with them. Otherwise, we will see you next week, same time, same place. Thank you so much for watching the Biz Sister Show. Bye.